Welcome, everybody. September 19th contributor experience call. I see some faces I don't recognize, but I wasn't here last week. So quick introductions. You're on mute.
Sorry, hi. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm Ofer. I'm joining this meeting for the first time to talk to you about a code review system I have written.
Ooh, okay.
Hey folks, I'm Tim, tfogo on Slack and GitHub, yeah, I mostly help out with like docs and SIG release, and I'm here to talk about Oktoberfest.
Awesome, and I see you both found the agenda document, so that's working. Who else? Naomi, are you new here, or have I just not met you?
I am new here. I am Tim's colleague, and Tim invited me to this meeting. And I am going to shadow Tim with the docs things.
All right. Well, all three of you, welcome to Contributor Experience. Do we want to do the board first, or do we want to have the new people do the agenda first so they don't have to sit through our boring board stuff unless they want to?
I like the sound of that.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do the open mic first then. So Oktoberfest, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. That's great. So Oktoberfest is kind of an event, I guess, organized by DigitalOcean, GitHub, and Twilio. And it's kind of a month-long festival over October, not surprisingly, where the point of it is to kind of increase engagement with open source projects. So the kind of goal is that people who are taking part in Oktoberfest, they have to make 5 contributions to any open source project on GitHub. And then their contributions are tracked. And if they make 5 contributions across the month, then they get a free t-shirt. This is kind of a nice little initiative in order to increase people getting involved with open source. So I thought it might be something that the Kubernetes project would like to get involved with. We don't actually have to do anything to get involved with it. It's kind of down to the people taking part to decide which projects they want to contribute to, and any kind of public contribution on GitHub just gets counted towards that. But there are a couple of things that we could do to help smooth out the process.
Sure. I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
So one, would you need like someone to basically, from Kubernetes, to basically shepherd this, similar to like Summer of Code, where we have like a point of contact person?
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I think, very self-directed.
Okay.
But that being said, it might be useful to have some people on deck watching for people who are coming from Oktoberfest and might need some guidance.
Okay.
So
that's basically us.
Yeah.
So you found the right group. Okay, so you also kind of like need permission? Like, do you want to list Kubernetes as one of the possible ones?
Well, so the way that they list kind of things that you can get involved with on their website is there's like Oktoberfest issue labels. So you add Oktoberfest as an issue label to anything that you think would be suitable, and then I think it like comes up on the website, or the people who are taking part in Oktoberfest are told to search for that label specifically. So if you wanted to kind of advertise as, hey, you know, we're involved with Oktoberfest, if you're interested and you're going for Oktoberfest, these are issues that you might want to take a look at. So my first thought is, hey, anything that's labeled as good first issue might be good as also being labeled as Oktoberfest.
Is there a way, and Aaron and Christoph chime in here if you have a question. Is there a way we could do it without creating a new label? Like consume our good first issue labels? Or do we want...
So what I've seen previously with Oktoberfest, because it's been going for a few years now, is they will highlight issues that have the label, but the general idea of participation is that it's just getting people involved in open source, period. And like they will, any repo that is like, that doesn't, you can explicitly opt out, but any repo that doesn't opt out is eligible for participating if it's like a public open source repo on GitHub. We do have good first issue stuff. It might be worth looking and highlighting and adding that. The problem is the way our permission set is laid out. There's only certain people who'd be able to manually add, and otherwise we need to create automation to be able to apply the label. I don't know that we necessarily have cycles to do that, to add all the automation pieces just for like a first month thing. But like, yeah, Aaron's kind of suggesting where I was going with this is like, maybe we could even tie it in with the good first issue plugin to like also add that label as well. And then when Oktoberfest is done, we just retire the label. So it doesn't get too noisy. It's technically possible. There's just some work there that might need to be picked up.
I'm kind of leaning toward, because I feel like making labels for events is like, I don't know, like I feel like on the Hacktober site or wherever we announce this, we just link to the good first issues labels, right? And then, like, I feel like using a label as a symlink, as a temporary symlink, I don't know, is that fine? I mean, I don't know if we have the, in cycles being Christoph's spare time, like if we want to do that, or if we just want to.
So
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I have a question for Tim and Naomi here. I know in previous installations of Oktoberfest, you had featured projects. Is that something you're going to do this year as well? I can't find any documentation on your site regarding the label. Where, like, how, what type of issues we should add there, or how to do it. I can't find anything right now. Do you have a link to that documentation so we can just take a look at that?
Yeah, so to be clear, like Naomi and I aren't involved in organizing Oktoberfest.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I don't think neither of us have actually taken part in it before either. But
I have a Oktoberfest T-shirt around here somewhere.
Yeah, so I think we just thought it would be a kind of cool thing to potentially do, but we actually know very little about like exactly how we need to get involved. Just really wanted to put it in front of people as something to look at.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so as for like documentation, I've no idea. Sorry.
Yeah,
no worries. Thank you.
This segues into my second question that I had for y'all. How does Hacktoberfest, how do they deal with me just signing up and going and doing a bunch of spelling fixes on READMEs from 5 years ago? Problem.
That would be considered fine, so they don't heavily track any sort of abuse of the system unless you like create an account and then create a new repo in your own account and do 5 random commits. They might be able to track that, but if you do that on stale repos, they generally won't police that at all.
Okay. My concern there is because we do have a trivial content edit policy. Like, we don't want pull requests from people fixing 1 sentence. However, the policy basically says if you're going to touch that file, give it a once over, check for 404s, can part of it be rewritten, all that kind of stuff. I'm just cognizant of sending, because I have had like real complaints from developers that are like, some of these, like in the community repo, and I'm kind of handling, I'll see one and I'll do it in and I recognize it's a person's first one and stuff. But not all people, given how busy the project is, I'm not sure that some people agree that that's a good thing. Hoping someone else would chime in how we feel about trivial pull requests.
If somebody makes honestly, 5 trivial pull requests, it's not that big a deal. It's when people make large numbers to game the system in some way that we end up pushing back and saying, hey, can you combine these like 15 pull requests into one? Please do that. And we have done that before. I know specifically with Oktoberfest, unfortunately, their documentation, like I threw a link in the notes of their current site, but their documentation from previous years doesn't appear to be up there anymore. I know in previous years, though, from a maintainer side, they do have some like abuse mechanisms that you can throw in there to be like, hey, I'm getting lots of trivial pull requests for things, and I just want to opt out of Hacktoberfest, and I don't want anything on my repo to be eligible for Hacktoberfest. So then you just opt out, and then people don't want to go to your repo to make trivial pull requests because it doesn't get them points anyways because you're opting out. So they kind of have that as far as an abuse mechanism, but I don't know. Again, I don't know specifically if they're doing something like that this year because all their documentation for previous years doesn't exist and they don't have that stuff up for this year yet.
So, Christoph, I just found I posted the important stuff in the chat there. Apparently, all that's required is 5 open PRs. They don't count no contribution is too small. Bug fixes and documentation updates are valid. They don't have to even be merged. Just 5 open pull requests.
I might be able to help out here because Bob.
Oh, sorry, I pasted the wrong thing. There we go.
Because we did run the community repo through a 404 link checker, and there are so many broken links that we can have people fix. Like Bob's not here, but I could talk about Bob. Like we could almost do a tag called Hacktoberfest and only do fixing broken 404s in the community repo. And I'm willing to bet they won't get through it. It's something like 457 broken links or something. It's like this ridiculous amount of stuff. Do you want me to investigate? That might give them a place to go that they're, because a broken 404 on the community side is actually helpful without, accidentally sending them to Kubernetes and, do a spell fix or something and then get a cold shoulder. You know what I mean?
As long as I think that would be useful if we were able to run a script, identify what's 404ing, open up an issue for it, and have people take off. Don't do all of them at once. Do batches. If we lay out instructions of hey, do a batch at most 10 links or so in a PR so that we can review them don't do one at a time and don't do 100 at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
And also make sure that you take the time to validate the new place that it's going. Don't just take a guess to fix it so it goes to something that 200s. We want those links to actually be valid and actually update that the right content is at the right destination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So those would be the 2 asterisks that I'd put when reviewing those PRs so that it doesn't waste our time reviewing a PR and it not be going to the right destination anyways. Yeah. I would also put in there that something that already 300s probably shouldn't be eligible because there's plenty of things that we have purposeful redirects, anything that goes through get.kates.io is a purposeful redirect. So anything that 300s shouldn't be eligible, but anything that 400s and is missing would be something that's worth correcting.
Yeah, and some of them are it's not just search and replace too. Sometimes the sentence doesn't make sense and you have to fix that thing. And I think having a human there that's smart enough to look at context would help. All right, so I could take that item. That's an easy, running these through a 4 report, I think it would give them a place to go. It would actually be useful because when the contributor site went up, a lot of the links are busted, and that's kind of how the state of the community repo is right now. So, okay. All right. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, so this is kind of great that we have some issue that makes perfect sense for this, but it might be nice to kind of maybe publicize this across the organization a little bit. So if there are SIGs who,
yes.
First of all, to say to people, hey, make a bit more of a push to make sure you're labeling good first issues, because we might have some more people over October getting involved with these. And secondly, if you as a SIG have something exactly like this that we would love people to get involved with, then this is the time to do it.
Yep. Actually, let's do this. After this, can you give us a little snippet? And then Jonas will be the first one to read it. We'll just, all of October, we'll just mention that this is happening and take care of your good first issue tags with everyone's supposed to be doing it. And we'll just mention it at the weekly call every week for the rest of the month. How's that sound?
Sounds perfect.
Sweet. All right. So just come up with the text, give it to Jonas in the channel or whatever, and then Jonas will slap it in the notes. Sweet.
Sweet.
Anybody else? Comments?
It might be worth just like a KDev email, as well as Aaron was also mentioning in the chat. If we're able to, like, if we have a snippet and we can get it reviewed that like we're cool with the snippet that's created, then yeah, if we're able to send it out to KDev and just mention in the community meeting, like, hey, if you have a thing that's good for this, throw good first issue on it. And then once they come out with documentation about like how they might be highlighting things, then we can look at, is there automation or something that we want to do that's worthwhile doing? Because they just don't have any documentation up for this year yet. But if we just highlight things that are good for this with good first issue, then at least we have that kind of consistent across all the different repos in the org.
Yeah, just make it obvious where you're going to put the snippet, because I'll repost that. I'll send it to Dev. I'll send it to the forums. I'll ask social at CNCF to tweet it. We can do all those things. I'm just going to need the snippet. Try to tweet length would be perfect.
Yeah, I got it.
So I can just copy and paste. Awesome. Great. Thanks very much for showing up. Okay, next we have the multi-repo code review. Offer? Did I say that right?
Yeah, offer, exactly.
Okay. Sweet.
Hi everyone. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm a software developer at Google, and I've written this cool code review tool that I want to share with you. Whoops. Yeah, so I've prepared the slide to show you. Yeah, so it's a multi-repo code review tool. What that means is that it can actually, you can do a single PR on multiple repos. So it can do also many things. So each repo can be from a different host. So GitLab, GitHub, on-prem, Bitbucket. You can combine any of them because it's actually, what it's doing is that it's, there's a component that's on your machine that's getting the files to the browser. So it's actually getting the content from your own machine, and it doesn't care where the Git repo is hosted. Privacy preserving, so you can actually do a PR with someone where they have their own private repo that you can't see, but they can see. And so you can actually combine private repos with public repos, do a whole code review with all of them. The source code never leaves your machine, so that's why it preserves privacy. Also, you can view local changes in your tool. In the code review tool, you don't have to push the code to like GitHub just to see the diff. There's a multi-repo CLI tool that comes handy with it for some useful commands. And it works with multiple auth providers because it's based on Firebase. So it works with GitHub, Google, and there's others, like Firebase supports multiple authentications. So yeah, a lot of stuff. This is the architecture. So all of the metadata is stored in Firestore, which is Firebase's cloud storage. And your web app takes the metadata from there, but takes the code and the diff from your local machine, from a local gRPC server that's getting the content from Git. Similarly, the CLI tool can gets the metadata from Firestore and accesses Git directly. And there's also a cloud service to do some stuff, like sync comments with GitHub and stuff like that. I can talk about this, but I'd focus more on this part because we don't have a lot of time. So this is what it looks like. I guess it's kind of similar to Pro that you're working with. So this is the needs attention. This is what I need to do. Either I'm the author and I need to do fixes, or I'm the reviewer and I need to review. These are incoming and outgoing reviews, things I'm CC'd on, drafts that I haven't sent to anyone yet, possibly not even, just not sent, and submitted are things that are already merged to the master. This is what the UI looks like for a single diff. So I can add someone to the attention set so he knows that it's his turn or her turn. This is the description area. These are the files. And this is the discussion area with all the comments. Here's an example with like more stuff going on. So more comments. This is like overall comments and code comments on specific lines. This is basically it. So these two screens are mocks, but I'll show you what it looks like now. After I explain this, so user flows, the standard one, I'm going to just briefly describe it, and then how you can work with private repos and how you can join a diff after it's actually submitted, which is pretty cool. So just a standard workflow, you create a diff, which is a PR. You code. You can see all your changes in the tool. Then you start a review. The reviewer, it shows up in your reviewer's like needs attention area. And then a reviewer can start a review, standard review, but they can only see the files that are on their own machine. So if you have like a private repo, they can't see the code. And then they approve. And then once approved, you can submit. And then the cloud service, it merges the changes to repos it has access to. And if there's a private repo, then the owner needs to set up a tool that can integrate directly with the Firebase cloud storage and understand when things are need to be merged and merge them to the private repo. Now, how do private repos work? So the private repo CI checks the diff. If the diff is not breaking, the CI is automatically approved by the repo CI. If it does break, so the owner of the private repo needs to join the diff and apply the changes to their own private repo and participate in the discussion if needed. Apply the fixes until it's passing, and then I can continue to merge it. Joining a diff after it's been submitted. So actually, even if the diff has been submitted, you can join the review afterwards with like a late repo. And that's good if like there's a breaking change and you're one of the dependents, and then you add your changes, and then other people can see what fixes need to be made for that breaking change. So it adds like more examples for the community for how to fix breaking changes. So people don't have to figure out on their own. They can see like what other people are doing and basically copy paste. That's the last slide. And I'll just show you the system real quick. So this is it. This is like a diff with all the comments and code. This is the diff. You can leave a comment and like remove from attention set, and it syncs immediately, and I can edit stuff. And this is like the main panel with all the stuff. I don't have time. Yeah, I can show you that if I edit locally, I can actually see it in the UI, but just trust me that that happens. And that's it. That's what I wanted to show. If this is interesting for you for Kubernetes or even like for your own use, please let me know. And I'm interested in like community contributions. So all the code is open source, and the issues are updated with good first issues, and there's a board with what's going on currently, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming and presenting this. So I just have a couple high-level questions. The first one is, so this looks like an app that you have to host yourself and that multiple people would interact with, yes? Or is this something that every individual contributor hosts on their own system?
So if you're a developer and you want to like do changes yourself, so you would install, and you want to work with the system, so you would install like the local server so it can see your local changes and then see even if you don't push, everything is immediately visible. If you're not, then for public repos at least, it can host the files. And so you don't have to install anything.
Okay. And the second question is, what does the discussion pieces, so when there's things that are reviewed and people leave comments, do those appear on any of the back end sources? So like, how does that look as far as a GitHub PR? If somebody was not looking at this review tool, would they be able to see those comments, or are those comments locked into this particular review tool?
Right. So now I'm working on a GitHub sync so that if you leave a comment in any side, like either GitHub or reviewer, then it would sync to the other side. And so you can see the comment on whichever tool you prefer to use.
Right. To address your, so Josh just put a note in the chat about like what kind of problem does this solve? It's a different way of approaching reviews for features that end up touching multiple different repos within our org. We have right now the primary way we solve this for things that need to be really super tightly coupled is the staging setup in Kubernetes, which has its own set of trade-offs. It's working for us now, and we're definitely constantly improving it. But there's definitely some trade-offs to having the staging setup in Kubernetes and then syncing outwards to other repos and exposing the code that way. I can see value in kind of a tool or a setup that would allow you to open PRs against multiple different repos, have multiple different sets of CI run, and then be able to approve them all together for merge. That okay, this set of diffs that are going into Kubernetes will also go in at the same time as this set of diffs that are going into, say, a cloud provider repo. There's definitely value there, but for our use case, at least in my opinion, I think an absolute must-have would be that kind of syncing tool to be able to expose things, because the vast majority of our developers, we don't want to break the GitHub flow for anyone and say, oh, you have to go and use some other tool to review this. For us, having the GitHub flow there as well would be absolutely crucial before we would even consider trialing something or looking at something and seeing if it solves your use case. That is so important to us. So I'd be really interested to see what that looks like again and get updates on it as that feature is there and able to be rolled out, so that we can take a look at how comments and would be able to be synced back and forth between a multi-repo review tool and GitHub itself, if you're just scrolling through your PRs and getting notifications through the regular GitHub means.
Yeah, for sure. And I can even tell you that when I showed this to Eric, that's exactly what he said. Yeah, GitHub sync is really important.
Have you shown this to Tim Hawking? The reason I ask is we used to have reviewable enabled on the Kubernetes repo, and he really liked it, but it ended up being too expensive, and some people wanted to use GitHub, and some people Like at one point, I accidentally spammed every Kubernetes developer by clicking on the wrong thing. And it's a tool like this is something that you almost have to have. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd be happy to sync with him.
yeah, I just want to let you know because he very much was interested in solving this kind of, why do we have a Kubernetes and this thing? Why can't we have one dashboard across? And I think
Yeah,
Reviewable was, how long did they try it? It was before my time. I think maybe a year. I'm not sure how many people used it, but it's one of those things where like, you're gonna have to kind of market it to each. This is something I feel like Contribex could never make a decision on, right? We would have to have an overwhelming consensus from developers to say that we want to move away from this to this. Like, I don't
Yeah,
even
and
if you wanted to, right? Say, hey, we're all going to move to this. But
it's something that we would need to get a lot of buy-in for.
Yeah.
I know, like I invited Offer to this meeting to kind of present it initially.
Mm-hmm.
He presented it to SIG testing yesterday, and they also saw a lot of potential in it. That's kind of where it is for us. Is there's potential because it's trying to solve a problem that we very much do have. In a way where we're looking at different trade-offs from the staging system.
Yep.
Because the staging is still like it works, but it's very fragile and it's not like there are a lot of trade-offs, especially in Go world, with how we do that, and we're having to solve issues around, as we're looking for dependency management and moving to vgo or Go mod. Again, every time we do things like that, the staging system always kind of trips us up. So having a way of being able to review code that goes into different repos, track all the CI testing that's happening in those different repos, and being able to like give a green light for everything to merge all at once.
Yeah.
There's definitely potential value in that. We just need, like, again, the key thing before we would even consider taking a look at it is the GitHub sync. So when that feature is done, Offer, I think we'd be definitely open to seeing how that looks and maybe even giving it a test run.
Yeah. Now we don't have a demo for tomorrow. If we were to frame this as kind of like an exploratory thing just to get people's feedback and stuff, we could do it at the community demo meeting tomorrow. We don't have a demo.
I would suggest that it's premature specifically around the GitHub sync. Like, it's not even something that we can consider without the GitHub sync. So once that's in place, then I think we can start like talking to the community, and in particular around developers who are doing those kind of big features around cloud providers and APIs and stuff like that. They're like big things that touch a whole lot of things in core. I think those are the people that we would want to talk to and kind of wrap into this conversation about, like, what are the things you really need out of a tool? What are the things that are really helpful to have out of a tool here? What are the things that we absolutely need to avoid?
Yep.
If we're looking at some other tool to handle this kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. All right, so I guess spin back around with this, Offer, when you get a chance, and then we'll move from there. But thanks for working on this. Sweet.
For sure.
Any other questions before we move on to the usual business? Okay, thanks. Those of you that don't want to hang out, you can leave if you don't want to sit through our project board. It's really boring. No, it's great.
You're also welcome to stay.
Yes, you're also welcome to stay.
Don't drive them off, George.
Yeah, I wish
they might want to take on work.
Yeah, I wish I could leave and not have to look at my work items. Okay, real quick, recurring business for hosting the meeting. I'm going to toss the spreadsheet. It feels like we're kind of getting in a rut with hosts. So if anyone wants to host the Kubernetes community meeting, this is the Thursday meetings. This is the upcoming schedule here, and the SIGs I've filled out for the next. We should be good through November as far as SIGs giving their status reports. And as Jonas is finding out, they're usually like, oh, that's this week, so the host still has to continue to kind of chase after SIGs. So next week is Josh. After that's going to be Jeffrey Sika, and then it's all blank. So if you have anybody who hasn't hosted before or wants to sit in and we can help, like, I don't know, diversify that a little bit, let me know. But we definitely need at least a few more people for that. Let's see, office hours is going to be this morning session went well. We had a bunch of few volunteers. Both Jeff, Bob, and Mario cannot do office hours on the West Coast. So if any of you have any engineers sitting around doing nothing, please feel free to let them know that we could use them at this afternoon session. And meet our contributors. With the steering committee it was the highest amount of traffic we've ever seen in to meet our contributors. So the traffic there continues to grow. So that's the any recurring boring business that we need to cover before we move on to the board. All right, so how do we do this? Do I just share my screen and then we go left to right? Is that what happens? Can everyone see that?
Yep.
All right, how do I hold on. My maximization button is like under the Zoom overlay. I hate computers so much. Keyboard shortcuts work? Let's see. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any completed, I've actually never run one of these at this meeting. This was Paris last time. So how do we go? Left to right, right to left? Anybody? Jonas, I don't know if that's your left or my right. You're gonna have to tell me.
Yeah, I think if you just go through, essentially talk about the blocked ones and then go through in progress.
Yeah, before I get through those, any notable completions that happened this last week that we should discuss? Or is everyone generally thumbs up? My Zoom window is now minimized, so I can't see. I can't see. So if someone's like waving, let me know. Okay, let's go through block ones here. Remove direct access from the repo. This is you, Aaron.
I'll speak to it, Aaron.
Okay.
Can't really speak right now. It's still kind of in a block state, and probably will be for some time as we work through kind of the remaining issues. It's been a slow kind of uphill battle on that one, but we're making progress. But before we'll be able to like completely close that out, it'll probably be a while. Something that was helpful in the last week was we had a new repo set up for SIG testing, and they agreed to guinea pig like going into it with no write access whatsoever to the repo, and just having like root owners files. And he reported back that like he was able to do most of the things without any problems and just be using the bots to do things. He did, however, highlight a few kind of key things that were not on our radar as far as direct write access. Things like being able to create milestones. You can apply them with our current automation, but we can't create them with our current automation. So there was a few things like that he was able to highlight, or like tagging releases without, release automation. Like we have a bunch of release automation for KK, but other repos that don't necessarily have all the Anago release automation, those pieces just weren't available. So we did get some more information. We're continuing to work on it.
Okay, cool. Anybody else hard blocked on anything before we move to in progress? All right, create README for dev stats. This is ULC.
Yeah, so I'm working with Lucas on this to update the README. Right now, people are landing on dev stats, and they're trying to use dev stats for things that it shouldn't be used for. So essentially, they don't understand how terms are defined, and they don't know to go down to the bottom of the page. That's where like the definitions are. And so we want to make a README that makes that, that sends them to the GitHub repo, that makes that really explicit.
Okay. Need help from anybody or any outstanding issues for the group? Okay. Moving on, Contributor Summit. We had this meeting on Monday. Jeff went ahead and committed the initial skeleton to GitHub, so that's in the /events folder. The only thing we're waiting on now is more feedback on the morning sessions, which you want to be kind of like driven by the SIG's sustainability style talk. So like the first one's going to be a SIG Arch talking about, overviewing overarching style things. And then the afternoon is going to be unconference sessions. And then the travel day Sunday, there'll be like a cool little social thing. So that's going really good for Seattle. Josh, I know you were gone. Do you want to say a quick snippet on how Shanghai's going, or are you generally all good?
Yeah, I mean, Shanghai's got kind of its own team.
Right.
It has been interacting a lot with other teams because we're in kind of radically different time zones.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a team of 6 people, I think, that are organizing it. We're pretty much pinned down the logistics for the contributor social.
Mm-hmm.
That happens the evening of the contributor day. Pooja's handling that. He has the theme of that. It's going to be not just a social, but also something with content, both because that's going to appeal more to the Chinese folks who are at the conference than a purely social event, and second, because we don't actually have other contributor events. And so we're going to have a panel consisting of contributors from China and Chinese contributors who are living elsewhere to talk about, being a Chinese contributor to Kubernetes and what the main roadblocks are, and ways to get around those and other things.
Okay.
So we'll be announcing that soon, so that current contributors will know about it, since they won't be attending the events for the rest of the day.
Sure.
And then beyond that, we're kind of working on getting the new contributor workshop organized, which requires, revisions based on our experience first time giving it. And then we're going to be giving it in 2 languages, which will be an interesting challenge.
Sweet. Anything you need from this team here that can help you, or are y'all pretty much all set?
Well, we still have something left unresolved with the contributor playground that we brought up before, which is the how we can do the review process with the contributor playground.
Okay.
We don't necessarily need to discuss that in this meeting, but I want to just mark that as still unresolved.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to try to power through these cards here since I just realized we have 15 minutes. Communication and collaboration platform sprawl assessment. This is a Paris one, but there was a contributor I didn't recognize before who's been organizing a spreadsheet that has a list of all of our communications platforms, and then we're going to figure out how to consolidate who's in charge of what and who owns what. But that's more of a Paris thing, unless anyone has anything to add on that front or has been working on this and knows about it. All right, audit Zoom license holders. That's like an ongoing process. Paris isn't here, so she'll just talk about that next week. Moderation docs or mailing list. I need to reprioritize this because I feel we don't really need it, because the next card, archiving K users and moving to discuss, is done. I closed it on Wednesday. Bob PR'd all the multiple repos and got everything merged as far as sending users to the right thing instead of a closed mailing list. So I consider that done. I'll go ahead and update those issues after this. Christoph, GitHub team structure.
I'll quickly just speak to the 3 GitHub management items. So 23, 23, 21, 26, and 23, 24. No like substantial update on them. Those are still like to-do items that we want to advance forward. There's a bunch of like other kind of automation work that has been prioritized above those for the time being, but they're still in progress.
Mm-hmm.
But no substantial update right now.
Okay. Next, SIG update template for community meeting. This is actually solved in a pull request that I did, but the bug is still open. What do? Do I just close the bug and then that will sort itself out? Sure. Christoph, GitHub permissions? This
Same as above.
Yeah, okay, that's what I figured. Non-code contribution guide edition, Jonas?
Yep. So we have our next meeting here later today.
Yep.
So one of the things that we talked about last time was to add a few new roles to the contributors role board. And Nicole Huisman, she is going to post an example of that. She wants some feedback, so she'll be posting one of those in the SIG Contribex channel, just to get some feedback. This is for a discuss role, essentially a conversation instigator or a conversation starter role, making sure that we get some good discussions going. Josh, you had some ideas as well regarding information on managing events for that, and I think that falls under the contributor summit role. Mm-hmm. So we did add the non-code docs to the repo. One thing that's on me right now is to add a segment and link to the non-code doc from the regular contributors guide, and also while I'm doing that, to make it a non-trivial contribution, is to go through the rest of the document to make sure that it looks good as well. So that's on me. And then today we also are doing a final review of the form letter, and essentially final review will be done by Noah.
Okay, awesome. Any questions for Jonas or any asks of us?
No asks.
Yeah, I'll be the point of contact. I'll let Nicole know. I can do that. That's an awesome one. Service accounts, Christoph, anything about this?
Nope, same as above.
Yep, that's what I figured. Let's just go through tracking umbrella real quick. Mentoring programs, that's Paris, she's not here. Community maintenance tasks, I get the feeling will just end up being for all of 2018. But I feel from looking at, with doing the Zoom stuff, a lot of that was like changed now because of the way we do GitHub. I'm gonna need to go back and scrub to see which one of those makes sense. Does anybody have, I get the feeling that people would agree that a lot of these don't make sense anymore.
Yeah, we might need to like cut new ones and figure out like which kind of what the state is at. When we started those community maintenance tasks, like a lot of things, like GitHub had zero policies around them for doing any of these audits, and we didn't even have access in many cases to do these audits. Mm-hmm. So lots of things have changed in the last 9 months or so. So.
And umbrella issue for reviews. Oh, we still need a review section for the contributor guide. Oof, that's a hard one. Let's skip it though. Is Ryan here? Developers guide. I need to sync up with him and see how that's going. I do want to mention quick election things while we get to the card. I am planning on opening SIDs and everything right after this call with Ihor and sending out ballots and things like that. So unless anyone has any questions for that. Do we typically go through the backlog on this, or is it like first come, first serve?
Yeah, I think we should skip the backlog for now. If we've got 10 more minutes, there's still a couple items left on the agenda.
Oh, okay. All right. Skipping then. Thanks. All right. Did I stop sharing? All right. What's left on the agenda? Scrolling down. Aaron, this is you, right?
I'll speak to those two quickly for Aaron because he can't speak. So the first one is removing some org-wide GitHub labels. Yeah, there's not really any discussion, but it's a heads up of something that's already been sent out to KDev. These are all labels that are deprecated in our current process. A lot of them had to do with the submit queue and Munge GitHub, which is no more. Rest in peace, Munge GitHub. So we're gonna rip those labels out of the org because we just don't need them anymore. If anybody has any comments or concerns, reply to the mailing list. Second one is standardizing the automation on Kubernetes Incubator. This is, again, a continuation of the GitHub management subproject doing things to standardize things across our orgs. We did something similar to this for Kubernetes SIGs to have consistent automation and plugins enabled across all the different repos. That was successful, and there wasn't really any hiccups in that. So we're doing the same thing with Incubator. We're not getting rid of Incubator just yet, Josh. It is legacy though in that we're not kicking anybody out and forcing them over to SIGs, but we're also never adding anything new to Incubator. Incubator's kind of like frozen where it is now. There isn't any drive to force everybody over into Kubernetes SIGs and to adopt that model yet.
Totally looking forward to using the word vestigial here. Yeah, I love that word. All right, Josh, does that satisfy? I can't tell if that's. Are you good? Okay, good. All right. All right. Anybody else have feedback for Christoph on this one? All right, let's see. Elections are already covered. Spread the word about in your networks about the survey. Oh, nuts. Jonas, can you add a Contribex survey mention to the community meeting for tomorrow? We'll need to announce that. And I already talked about Kubernetes users. We have 7 minutes left. Does anyone have any outstanding questions?
Sorry, yeah, can you repeat that? Adding what to the agenda?
The Contribex survey.
Yeah.
It was probably on Dev and Contribex, the mailing list. Probably wouldn't hurt to mention it tomorrow. Is there anything else we should mention tomorrow to people? I know we send the label stuff to Kubernetes Dev, but it probably doesn't hurt to mention it in the announcements because repetition seems like the only thing that works sometimes.
Added.
Okay, cool. How do we get the recording to publish this afterwards? Because I know Paris is gone for a week, and I'd like to push it to YouTube.
Oh, for this meeting right now?
Yeah. Just curious.
I just hit the cloud recording because the local recording, I've never figured out how to get it working.
Do we know where that ends up?
Yeah, I can send you a link.
Okay, perfect. Good. I'll publish that to YouTube then as soon as it renders. Any other items? Elsa, you have anything? Final words? Matt Farina being strangely quiet in the background. Any comments?
Go forth and be awesome.
Go.
I have nothing to say. I have been listening, but I have nothing to add.
I was looking forward to hanging out with Matt. All right.
That means it's a good Wednesday. If we can end 5 minutes early and nobody has anything else to say, it's a good Wednesday.
Nobody tell Paris. Tell her we're barely hanging on. All right. With that, have a few minutes back. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see everyone at the community meeting. Thanks, all new people, for hanging out. I hope you come back and we didn't scare you away. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.